Ricky, did you ever think that a Cricket New South Wales organisation would run a Washington-based cricket franchise and you'd be the coach of it?
Probably not the latter part. There's every chance of America getting a tournament up and going, and obviously Cricket Australia or Cricket New South Wales having some involvement. But as far as me being coach, I hadn't thought much about it. I'd spoken to a lot of the guys that had been at MLC last year. Shane Watson coached there last year. My connections obviously at the IPL have got a small share in stake in one of the teams as well. So I'd heard a lot about it. I heard a lot of great things about it. And I think it's just the tip of the iceberg was where cricket potentially heads in the US. So I just felt it was a really good opportunity for me to get involved now in a really well-run team that had some good success last year, and hopefully get involved now and bring more success to the Washington Freedom this season.
How exciting is it with the World Cup coming up as well? Just starting the gig, the World Cup's there.
Yeah, it's cricket never stops now, does it? It's like last year for me was a bit the same with IPL rolling into World Test Championship, into Ashes, into 50 over World Cup, into the Australian summer. Last year was a big one. This one's going to be quite similar, with IPL for me, and then T20 World Cup, and then straight into this. So. I love doing it. That's the reason I'm here today. I love being involved in these tournaments. I love coaching. Gets me back closer to the playing days. And when you finish playing and that you get up and you're used to competing every day of your life, and then one day the competitive stuff is not there anymore. The coaching side of it for me is what's been able to take me back closest to playing again. So the game's in my blood, coaching's in my blood. Working with the best players in the world is something that's really exciting, and I think we'll see this competition in the next couple of years be attracting all the best players in the world. Certainly, I know that's one of the main goals of MLC is to become one of the leading domestic tournaments in the world. So I'm excited with the group of players that we've already got. We've got a bit of work to do in the coming weeks with retentions and releases and stuff, which is a big part of what we do. But another really exciting year on the world cricket calendar.
Ricky, do you see you playing a big role in helping grow cricket in the US, or are you mostly just focused on the Washington Freedom?
I think if I focus on Washington Freedom and the tournament continues to grow, that'll look after itself. I've read a lot of the headlines today about luring a big fish and all the big names over to MLC. I don't look at it that way at all. I'm there to bring success to the team, to Washington Freedom, and if that leads to other people wanting to get involved and be a part of it, then so be it. But first and foremost for me, it's about putting the best group of players together that we can, and then when we get together at early July, going about hopefully winning the tournament.
Have you heard if the player pool is going to expand, given it comes straight off the back of the World T20? There'll be a lot of really good players potentially available to play in the tournament compared to previous.
Yeah, we've I think it's from the 15th onwards when we can start doing that, talking to players and letting players know who we're keeping and releasing. I think there'll be more players become available. It's even with it, it's not so much a player pool now. It's whoever we want to reach out to, we're free to reach out to, and as you know, there's no auction or draft or anything like that. It's just make the approach to the player and see if you've got enough money in your salary cap to afford them. So that's the big part of this franchise cricket stuff is working out your list and working out your salary cap and making sure you got the right players in the right positions. And I think Maxie and the guys last year did a great job to put the squad together that they had last year, and if hopefully we can build on that this year and put a better 11 on the park.
So there is a cap, is there?
Yeah, there's a cap. Yeah. Yep.
So obviously one guy who's talked a lot about wanting to play cricket in the US or already having a base there is Steve Smith. Is he the sort of person you'd want to get involved?
Well, there are a lot of current Australian players that I'd like to get involved. Having worked closely with some of them, in IPL before, I've spent some time around the Australian one-day team and T20 team the last 4 or 5 years as well. And obviously, even with my TV commitments during the summer, I spend a lot of time talking to the boys. So there's a lot of big-name Australian players that we'd love to get involved with Washington Freedom, and that's the challenge we've got from over the next couple of weeks is hoping that we can attract them and bring them there, and that's my job now. As I said, with the relationships I've had with some of these guys, hopefully those relationships and the right amount of money is enough to bring them to the Freedom.
Is the I suppose the attraction of getting to play some cricket in the USA and in some nice parts of the USA, is that part of the package that you hope that attracts a player, and I suppose part of what attracted you as a coach?
It's a different new challenge for me. That's the way I look at it. and on the back of everyone having a really positive things to say on the back of last season being the first year. And I think where I've got a feeling that this tournament can go is why I wanted to get involved, as early as I have, because I think there's huge potential. There's huge growth possibilities in the US. Even with the IPL ownership, model the way it is at the moment, I just think it's got potential to become huge, and I want to be a part of that journey along the way. So we'll see what we can do to continue to grow the game in the US over the next couple of years.
Did you talk to your IPL links about this and about there is this sort of crossover sense where you have IPL franchises owning leagues, owning teams and leagues along the way?
Yeah, I did. When I was first approached, the first thing I did was actually get straight on the phone to Delhi and just see if they had any issue with it. As I said, they're a small shareholder in one of the other teams. They were fine. They had no issue with me at all. So, which is great. They've obviously got their own structures in place in their team anyway. And when this opportunity came up, they were more than willing for me to go and be part of it all.
And in terms of looking at this from a bigger picture perspective, and I suppose international cricket franchise leagues coexisting, I mean, has your thought process on that evolved over time? Like, do you think there should be windows distinct for each, or how do you think they should work alongside each other?
With domestic comps compared to international competitions?
Well, franchise T20 versus international cricket, yeah.
Look, this is something that's been spoken about for 7 or 8, maybe 10 years. Yeah. Nothing's really ever been put in place to block these competitions happening. I know certain countries have got limits on how many competitions their players can play, and I actually think that's not a bad model, to be honest. That protects the country from international availability for their players as well, and still allows the individuals to go out and make money outside of their international commitments. So it's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, for the game going forward, is how we manage the growth of these domestic competitions and slotting them all in with international duty, and even domestic competitions overlapping one another. That's the biggest challenge we've got with the Big Bash, for instance, now, is with Abu Dhabi and South Africa happening, and when they do, our little window is just being gobbled up more and more almost every year. So to the point, this year with the BBL finals, where you see most of the overseas players and better players not playing in the BBL to go and fulfil their contracts elsewhere. So it's going to be a huge challenge. I'm not sure what the right answer is, but lucky I'm not an international cricket administrator, I guess.
What do you make of Jake Fraser-McGurk in the last couple of weeks, the last 2 games?
I'm not surprised how he's gone out and played. You were there with me the other day when he walked out to face his first ball in his first game, and he tried to hit that 100 rows back over mid-wicket. So, look, I was on record at the start of the summer saying I think he's someone that could be well and truly fast-tracked through the Australian system, because the natural talent that he's got, reminds me a bit of a David Warner sort of introduction into Australian cricket. When we saw him at the start, I think everyone doubted whether he was going to be good enough to play Test cricket technically. But with the talent and the skill that he had, which I think Jake has got as much talent as what Davey had coming through, then I think the earlier they can get him into the system and get him playing and letting him work out for himself the best way to have success in all the different formats, I think it will be great for Australian cricket.
Do you see him as a Test player? Do you see him as a Test player?
Yep,
as well?
I do. Yeah, absolutely. Just because of the talent that he's got. And we've seen it with other players in the past, even like a Shahid Afridi, someone like that came on the stage as a ultra talented ball striking 17-year-old that could bowl leg spin, and before you know it, he's probably played 100 Test matches. When you've got that sort of talent, you need to be exposed to cricket at the highest level to work it out, and I think Jake can do that. Yeah, so I'm definitely backing him one day to play Test cricket.
Where do you rate the balance between sort of getting him in, obviously with an eye to the World Cup as well? We've picked probably our best team to retain that title or have another crack at it. Where do you see the mix between getting Jake involved as much as possible, but then also with an eye to the World Cup?
Obviously there's only so many people you can pick in the World Cup squad, isn't there? And I've never seen the squad, to be honest. Is he in it? No. Yeah. Time and place. Yeah, with 15-man squad, I guess it was it? He'll get other opportunities, but the more he can get that, the earlier he can get it at the younger age, the best it'll be. So I'm not saying that all that he should have been picked in the World Cup squad, because they've put together a really good squad anyway, and one that on paper will look as good as probably any team going there. So he'll have to bide his time, but as we saw yesterday, he looks pretty keen to make the most of the opportunities that he gets.
I just wanted to ask you about his mentality. So he's played 2 games for Australia, and the first one he batted for the first over, and then only 17 kills. yesterday, but making such an impact in a short amount of time. But how brave and how confident you have to be to go out there and back yourself in those circumstances?
Oh, you have to be that, but I think that's been the change in his career, hasn't it? The last 12 months I'm not sure he had a real clear plan or idea of what the best version of himself was and how he needed to play. But what I've seen since he's moved to South Australia in Shield cricket and one-day cricket for them, and then what he brought to the Renegades this year, I think it's pretty clear now the way that he wants to go about and play his cricket. Now he might have to temper that and change that here and there at different times in different situations and in different formats of the game. But I think when you've got that, as I said, when you've got that talent, I think you can do that. So yeah, he's a really exciting young bloke that I'm looking forward to seeing him develop over the next couple of years.
What did you make of the Smith move to opening, coming green to number 4, and the sort of the lack of runs generally over the summer for the Aussie batsmen? Any concerns? No concerns, because they've been so dominant for such a long period of time. I think the thing we have to think about with the Aussie team at the end of the summer is that just how big a year it had been for them. I mean, it was a huge year. You know, to the Australian summer into World Test Championship, into Ashes, straight into World Cup. Most of those Test batsmen played in a lot of those games as well. So probably no real shock to see Travis sort of taper off a little bit at the end as well of what he'd done through the calendar year. You know, the fact he's having a break now. And you look back to the last day of the Brisbane Test, it just looked like the Aussies were just completely done. They were just completely spent. So, and hence picking a fresher squad for the one-dayers, and they've been pretty dominant in those, and I'd expect they'll be pretty dominant in the T20 games as well. But I got no concerns. I've said at the start, I didn't necessarily agree with Smith moving up to the top. I thought they could have looked at picking the best performed opener at that time, but as I think Stephen said at the end of the summer, he said, I'm averaging 60 as an opener, so I think everything's going okay.
Just touching on what Dan was talking about before, is it tough to see what's going on in New Zealand at the moment with South Africa and sending that squad over and being absolutely smashed? Yeah, it is. But I think we all had grave fears for as soon as we saw that time of year that the SAT 20 was happening and then that test tour programmed. I mean, I think we all expected that was the way it's going to be. No one likes seeing it. You even feel for the players, don't you? You feel for the South African players as well that have been thrown to the wolves, and it goes to show that they're just not good enough. So that's back to what Dan said earlier. That's going to be the biggest challenge for our game going forward. And there are certain countries I think around the world that can afford to probably do that for a series here and there. There are a lot of countries that can't afford to do it, and South Africa are not playing a lot of Test cricket the next couple of years. They'd be one of the countries that I'd be most worried about as far as their Test cricket's concerned, especially on the back of what I saw here last summer. I think it was said the other day, I think they only play there's only 5 Test matches the next couple of years, isn't it, for them? So
they barely play more than a 2-Test series.
Yeah, so to try and grow the game in that country when they're not playing, it's going to be difficult. And the flip side of that, though, is what we saw the West Indies in Brisbane in that last Test. Hopefully that has the reverse effect back in their country where one performance or one Test match can actually reinvigorate the way that the Test match game is looked at in the Caribbean. That's the best case scenario.
I was going to say, you talked about the Test players being sort of at the end of the tether after a long year, but when you see someone of Shamar's pace and accuracy go at a batting lineup, I mean, it tells you there's not really any substitute for that if you can find that.
Well, that was the biggest surprise for me that day. He sort of bowled 135 k's an hour in Adelaide, and then with an almost broken toe bowled 147 k's in Brisbane in an 8 over spell or something, 10 over spell, yeah. So, I mean, that's what that youthful sort of exuberance does. Someone that's got an opportunity and is not going to let it slip. Someone that had a bit of a sniff of winning a Test match for his country or for the West Indies. It was great to see, and the story behind it is incredible, and they're the stories that need to be told more about our Test match game, and they're the stories that I hope that he can take back to the Caribbean and tell the rest of his countrymen about what it was actually like to represent the West Indies and what it's like to win a Test match. Because without that, the Test match game is not going anywhere. Because you can guarantee right now that all the stories that are being told around the Caribbean about how much money we're making playing T20 competitions around the world. So. No, it was. I was sitting back and watching the commentary box. It was fantastic, and I was with Ian Bishop at the end of the game, and James Brayshaw called the last ball, and then
he sort of threw over to one of us, and Bish looked at me to say, "No, you call this," because he had tears. He actually couldn't do it. He had tears in his eyes. That's how much it meant. So, no, it was great to see.
Just on the T20 front, Mitch Marsh is now captain all the warm-up, or lead-up, I should say, series to the World Cup. Should he captain in the big tournament, or should they hand it back over to Pat?
No, he should. I think he definitely should. He's going to have a few games under his belt now, isn't he? By the time they get there, so. And let's not forget with Mitch, he was a Test match vice captain only a few years ago as well when Justin took over, and they had, I think it was him and Travis, wasn't it, as co-vice captains of the Test team. So I think he's always been someone that's been earmarked as being a potential leader. And his last 12 months has been the best of his career, obviously culminating last week. And I just think he's in the right place now. He's confident in his own game. I know all his teammates love him and would love playing under him. So yeah, I think they probably will go that way. Yeah.
How's the planning going for the Delhi Capitals, and what do you think you're going to get out of Rishabh Pant this year?
Well, auctions, obviously the auction's all done. We were pretty happy with the way our auction went. Rishabh is very confident that he's going to be right to play. In what capacity, we're not quite sure yet. I mean, you would have seen all the social media stuff. He's up and about and running well, but saying that, we're only 6 weeks away from the first game as well. So we're not sure if we get keeping out of him this year, but I'll guarantee if I asked him now, he'd say, no, I'm playing every game, I'm keeping every game, and I'm batting at number 4. That's just what he's like. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. He's such a dynamic player. He's obviously our captain. We missed him incredibly last year, and if you understand the journey he's been on the last 12 or 13 months, it's been it was a horrific incident, one that I know he feels very lucky to have even survived, let alone have the chance to play cricket again. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed and hope that he can be out there and play, even if it's not all the games. If we can manage him through 10 of the 14 games, or whatever that might be, then whatever games we can get out of him will be a bonus.
His absence aside, what did you learn out of last year?
Look, our batting was disappointing last year. Our Indian batting was disappointing last year, to be honest. A lot of the guys that we felt would be able to handle difficult conditions in Delhi, a spinning wicket a lot of the time, we weren't good enough in those conditions. So we've got some challenges with our home venue, to be honest. Like we rock up every game. We're not really sure exactly what sort of wicket we're going to get. So you go to the auction expecting you're going to get one sort of surface, and you rock up for 5 games, 7 games there, and you get 5 different pitches. So that does make it hard. But we definitely lacked on batting quality last year, which is what we tried to really improve on this year. We've gone to the well with a couple of really highly talented young Indian players that we think that are ready to play straight away. I mean, that's the thing about the IPL. I mean, it's 1 year to the big auction, so it's not like you can really invest too much in these young blokes and hope to improve them overnight. You've got to get the best talent out there that you think's ready to play, and we've got a few of those this year. With Harry Brook coming into the setup as well. So with Warner, Marsh, Harry Brook, we've got some really good overseas batters. Marsh or Warner will bat up the top somewhere, and Harry Brook's been finishing off for England, so he'll probably play a finishing role for us there. And we get Nortje and Jai Richardson fit, then we fit, and with the 2 spin options we've got with Akshay Patel and Kuldeep Yadav, we've got a really good squad that, to be fair, has probably underperformed the last couple of years. So we've got some work to do.
Will Dave skipper again?
Depending on Rishabh, yeah. If Rishabh doesn't look like being available for the whole tournament, then Dave will skipper again.
Just one more read the franchise kind of situation. Obviously in Australia, the Big Bash teams are tethered to the states. They're not privately owned. Do you think that model could change without changing the calendar, as in the Big Bash running at the same time as international cricket in Australia, or would it have to be in its own window if that were to happen? Because that's clearly the model in other parts of the world now.
Running alongside international cricket?
No, not running alongside.
Yeah. I think for the Big Bash to operate at its optimum, then that's what you want. But I'm not sure we're ever going to get to a stage where we'll have a window that's going to allow that to happen. Next year will be a little bit different. Probably the back end looks like a lot of the international players will be available. Australian players anyway will be available for a certain amount of games at the back end of the BBL, which will add a bit more like it did last year. We only need a week either end. That's all we're after. Or even for Abu Dhabi to start a week later, or South Africa to start a week later, then we'll be able to fit everything in. But obviously that makes it difficult for them. So I'm not sure what the right answer is, but maybe looking at a way to compress the Big Bash a little bit more. I think it was the right amount of games this year. I think everyone was in agreement with that
the spectators certainly were, the viewers certainly were, the players seem to enjoy it a little bit more. So if there's a way that maybe that could be compressed and just find a few days here and there, we might be able to fit a whole tournament in without losing any of the players.
Thanks, Rick.
All right, good on you guys. Thank you.